All right, so let's look at some of these word problems. Again, we're going to be tackling a bunch of word problems. No reason to get all worried about these. Easy peasy in this case. Deli Delight budgets food costs to account for 40% and beverage costs to account for 35% of total costs. What is the ratio of food costs to beverage costs? Okay, we're just looking for a ratio of the food costs to beverage costs, and that's all we're given, right? So we're told 40% to goes to beverage costs, and then food costs is 40%. Food costs and beverage costs are 35%. So the ratio is 40 ratio 35. What is the ratio of foods to beverages cost? 40 ratio 35. Now often you will express it in the lowest terms, so you can find a common factor here, 5. So 5 times 8 is 40, and 5 times 7 is 35. So you can express that the ratio of food costs to beverage costs in the case of the Deli Delight budgets, Deli Delights is 8 to 7. So for every $8 or 8% that they spend on food, they spend 7% on beverage costs. All right, that's all it is. At Bargain Upholstery, commissions amounted to $2,500, while sales volume was 87,500 for the last month. What is the ratio of commissions to sale volumes? This is the commissions, and this is the sales. So we're asked the commission to sales volume. So commissions is $2,500, right? It's going to be a ratio to sales volume, which is 87,500. 7,500. And that's the ratio. Now often you'll express it in lower terms. So the common factor here is 100. If you divide both of sides by 100, we get 25 ratio 875. We still have 5 as the common. Well, actually, this is divisible by 25, and this is divisible by 25. So 25 times 1 is ratio 25 times 3 times 5, right? So 35 times, if I take a calculator out, 35 times 25, 875. Okay, so yeah. So this is for every dollar they're generating on commissions, they're selling around $35. The volume of sales is $35. So for $35 in sales, there's $1 being spent on commission. That's not a bad deal for Bargain Upholstery, I guess. We'll have to look at other factors of the business, but that's pretty good. Okay. Next, look at a company employs 6 supervisors for 9 office employees and 36 production workers. Okay, so there's employees, there is officers, and there is production workers. There's supervisors. Supervisors, officers, office workers, and production workers. Okay, production workers. So how many supervisors? 6 supervisors for 9 office workers, and how many? 36 production workers. That's it. That's all you have to do. 9 to ratio to 6 ratio to 6 ratio to 9 ratio 36. That's all it is. You've set up the ratio. Okay. What is the ratio? You've answered the questions. However, if you want to further express it in lowest terms, which is the way to do it, usually you don't have to, but that's how usually people express ratios in the lowest common terms, and that's how you will encounter them in business class and business talk. So you divide it down, it will be 2 ratio 3 ratio 12. So the common factor that I found was 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 12 is 36. So 2 ratio 3 ratio 12. We can't further divide it anymore because 3 is a prime number and we won't be able to find it, and 2 is a prime number, so we won't be able to find any other common factor. So we can say that the ratio of supervisors to office employees to production workers at this company is 2 to 3 to 12. All right, and pretty much that's all how we do it. So let's look at this last one. So here what are we being asked? The student spends 20 hours per week in classroom lecture time, 45 hours per week in individual study time, and 5 hours a week traveling to and from school. What is the ratio that exists between these 3 times? So the first time is 20 hours per week in classroom lecture time. Okay, we call it CLT. And then 40 hours per week in individual study time, we'll call it study time. ratio, what is the last one? 5 hours traveling, so commute time. Okay, so commute time. So there's commute time. So classroom lecture time, study time, individual study time, and commute time. How much does he spend on 40? He spends 20 hours a week in classroom lecture time, 40 hours per week in individual study time, and commute time he spends around 5 hours. Okay, so 20 ratio 5, 45 ratio. Now we can express it further in lower terms because all three of them are divisible by 5, or 5 is a factor of all of them. You can see this ends in 0, this ends in 5, this ends in 5. So anything that ends in 5 or 0 is divisible by 5. So 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 9 is 45, and 5 times 1 is 5. So we can say that for every 4 hours he spends in classroom lecture time, he spends 9 hours in individual study time and spends 1 hour in commute time. So he's got a big commute. But out of a total of, like, let's say 9 plus 4, 13 plus 4, 14 hours, he spends 9 in study time, individual study times, 4 in classroom lecture time, and 1 hour otherwise. Okay, very good. So that's all there is to these questions. Let's look at some more.